Big brain key points. Okay, segment 3, UW at Oregon, our first away game of the season, supposedly. Oh, also, if no one understood the last one, that was a song and an artist reference to having to run the ball and possibly losing, or them running the ball and us losing. So I guess that's where that went. But okay, there's a lot of controversy and some. I did a new SAT word today, hullabaloo, surrounding this game at Oregon between the Huskies and the Ducks. This morning, the University of Washington Athletics Department released did a press release stating that they've paused team activities for football this morning in compliance with COVID-19 protocols, following a notice of an increase in the positive cases within the football program. There we go. Lots of big jumbled words. They will not be having any practice at all today. According to a Seattle Times article, a source within the athletic program there says that they won't be making any decisions related to the game until PCR tests that were conducted today arrive with results sometime tomorrow. Now, some things that can happen depending on these PCR test results. The winner of the game, if it were to be played, will head to the Pac-12 championship game next week to represent the Pac-12 North. If the game is canceled, the Huskies would by default play in the championship game because we have the higher winning percentage record. We have a .75 winning record right now.
A quick point on that, though. They'd be awarded the Pac-12 North championship, but because of Seattle's testing and quarantine, if the game was canceled due to the COVID for the Huskies, then they wouldn't actually be able to play in the Pac-12 championship game because of the 14-day quarantine.
Thank you, Nathan. That was my next bullet point. I appreciate it. There's also a fear that if the game was canceled and we made the championship game, and we could, if the game was canceled, we were allotted the Pac-12 North slot to play in the Pac-12 championship game. Even with the quarantine guidelines allowing that, there's still a fear that we wouldn't even qualify for the championship game because of a Pac-12 policy that's being decided on right now about teams having 4 fewer games in our season. So if we didn't play, it's just a whole bunch of messed up things. And really the only way for the Huskies to make the championship game and become Pac-12 championships if we want to is to play Oregon and win. That seems like it's the thing that has to happen for us to make the championship game, is a game between us and Oregon. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is if that game, hopefully when that game happens. I think I let this one off to you to start, really.
Yeah, so I'll kind of look at Oregon a bit. We've looked at the Huskies. We've said everything that's wrong with them. But looking at Oregon, so they came into the season all hyped up. They were nationally ranked and all that. And they've kind of been a letdown the last 2 weeks. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They started off strong, but their last win was against UCLA, 38-35, November 21st. Since then, they've lost to OSU, 41-38, and Cal, 21-17 last week. And they've looked like they've had some issues. But then again, you look at UW. UW is coming off their first loss against Stanford, where they had some issues. So both teams, though, I guess you said the winner of this is going to the Pac-12 championship. So forget what's happened the last 1 week for the Huskies and 2 weeks for the Oregon. They each still have a shot at the championship. And Oregon the focus on them would be their struggling offense against Cal. They were down 17-21 in the fourth quarter, and they had 4 drives in the fourth quarter. 4 drives, that's about how many drives the Huskies had each half, maybe. There not many drives in that, but so the 4 drives for Oregon in the fourth quarter, they went a 7-play drive that ended on Cal's 18 after they went for it on 4th and 1, didn't get it, so a turnover on downs. Then a 6-play drive ending in a fumble, a 3-play drive that went -8 yards and they punted, and a 6-play drive that ended in a fumble. That's how Oregon ended the game against Cal. Very forgettable. Oregon's offense, the entire game kind of fluttered. Their first 3 quarters didn't go very well at all. In total, they had 4 3-and-outs. They had 1 drive where they only had 4 plays. So overall, Oregon's offense, which at the start of the season looked like it could be great, it's been an issue for them.
Yeah, I feel like, unless you were about to say something.
No.
Okay, sorry. You took a breath. I was a little worried I was about to cut you off. correct me if I'm wrong. I think, in my own opinion, and I think this is widely agreed upon, that historically Oregon has been a team that doesn't really care if you score while they're on defense because they trust their offense to just run the damn ball. Whether that's run the damn ball, to run the ball up the field in some way, shape, or form, and they trust their team to be able to score on every drive that their offense has. I think that's true historically. But if that stays true when we play them this coming week, we need to be able to adapt, because like it's guaranteed at this point that they watch the film between us and the past 4 teams we've played, as they're literally the only 4 games we've played this season, and take their assumptions and their game time strategies based off of those 4 games. If I was them, low key, I'd just ignore the 3 games we won and say, what did Stanford do to beat the Huskies? That was their loss this season, even though it was 4 games. What they do? They're going to say like, okay, target the rookie quarterback. He's not great yet with like big time decisions, like right at the line. And that there's like some players, if you take out of the game, functionality in those areas of the field start to drop, and efficiency starts to drop drastically for us. Whether that's like double teaming people like ZTF, or making it hell in the deep secondary for people like McDuffie and Molden, or if that's taking people out on offense like K. Daughton. He only had two catches for some amount of yards, not terribly impressive. It was pretty minimal, really. And so Oregon's definitely going to do that. But I think on the same side of that token, you also have the Huskies, who are going to hopefully be doing that on the 2 losses Oregon's faced, and seeing like the things we can pick out. But with the historics of the Ducks on offense being fast paced, being through the air, on the ground, very quick athletes, very fast athletes, something or someone has to step up on defense. I mean, we've been talking about it since preseason about having key players on the defensive and the offensive side of the ball, whether that's Molden, who steps up and has an even greater game than he's been having, that's steadily increasing performance, whether it's McDuffie, who steps up and just has an incredible game, whether ZTF comes back and says, hey, you know what, last week was an oddity. It was a outlier. There we go. I can't remember words today. It was an outlier. Like, hey, like, look at me this week. I'm back. Like 12 solos, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception somehow. But I mean, like, hey, if that's what he does, that's what he does. Coming into this game against Oregon, something on the defensive side that's my TLDR. Something on our defensive side of the ball has to change against a team that's historically fast-paced and high-scoring.
Yeah, can't disagree with you there. You want to give a score prediction? What's your?
Okay, I have technically four score predictions. Super quick. I actually wrote a butt ton about this game, and what I thought would have to happen, what would have to change, because I was really irked that we lost against Stanford. But I had a bunch of key goals. I said that if we met those key goals, I'm pretty confident that we'll win. It'll be really close, though. I'm saying 41-38, high scoring, beat them out by a field goal. That's the way the game looks. If these key goals are met only in part, we either lose, just blowout, like 30-35-14, or it's a close game, not as high scoring, 35-32, still an Oregon win. If the goals aren't met at all, or just like ignored, it's a blowout. I'm thinking like 47, low 50s to 1-2, maybe 2.5 scores. So I'm thinking something like 47-14.
What are your key goals?
Oh, geez, what were my key goals? Really quickly. Must start offensive tempo in the first quarter. We cannot wait until the second half. In my opinion, in a broad stroke paintbrush kind of thing, they don't care about giving up. Okay, I said that. Similar. Okay, if they score, we cannot let it get into Morris's head by putting that pressure on his shoulders. Like he just doesn't have that confidence or in that composure yet to take points in off the field and then be able to put back up and put us over. We have to be able to learn how to lean on other portions of the team if we're missing personnel, like ZTF, who was just a no-show even though he was on the field, or people like Puka Nacua and Richard Newton not being able to play. Lastly, we have to keep up the positive and super high turnover ratio, because I mean, if the other team's offense isn't on the field, they can't really. I mean, it's really tough to score when you don't have offense on the field. Those are my key goals. Those are what needed to be met. What's your score prediction?
Getting into mine quickly, we got a couple of minutes. We got no shows after us, so just what I looked at it was the past 2 weeks tell me that UW's got a good chance and should be able to beat Oregon. But then if you look at the past 20 years, they scream Oregon's going to beat the Huskies. So you got to pick history or present. I mean, history, the only 2 times since 2004 the Huskies have won was the 2016 college football playoff year and then the year after that. So historically great Husky teams, and those years happen to also be historically bad Oregon teams. This year, we have neither one of those. We've got an average Husky team and kind of an average Oregon team. So I'm picking Oregon. I think Oregon wins by 6 points, maybe. Close game, but it could easily, depending on COVID and who's out for the Huskies, be an absolute blowout where the Huskies lose by double digits.
I mean, I feel like one last thing before I run out of time.
Hmm.
I think if you want like my honest opinion, and I think Nathan might be thinking the same way as me, is that every football game, what it comes down to is that during that game, you're going to have a couple of key moments. And I'm sure anyone who's ever played football at any level has heard some coach in some form or another say something super similar to this. Every game comes down to a few key moments. We don't know when those key moments are, but they're bound to happen. Whatever player, whatever team is prepped to deal with those key moments and take advantage of them is generally the team who wins the game. You can look back at any, and I mean like blowouts too. You can look at those. There are key moments that occurred in that game where maybe if the other team had done something, they could have come back and prevented a blowout or even won the game. That's how I feel about the game coming up, and that's how I felt about every game going forward in the past. Yes, there's